We're going to carry on now with a tune called Nina's, and that'll be followed by Bintata Scatum. We're now going to finish off our wee set with a slower tune called Balcragan.
fantastic talent. Thank you, Georgia, Poppy and Leona. That was brilliant. They are going to escape for the evening. They've got better things to do than wait around us. But can we give them a round of applause on the way out? It was absolutely perfect. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to a very cold collegiate church. I thought it was going to be a lot colder. My nose was going to be dripping, but actually it's not too bad. Thank you very much for everyone turning up tonight. And all those, I believe, who are now live streaming around the world. And I was getting emails saying, I'm getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch this. So to say I'm panicking that it was going to work is a wee bit of an understatement. But I believe we're all go. So whether you've just joined us here for the call tonight, or you've got up early, or you're staying up late to watch us, we're deeply grateful that you have chose to be with us tonight. I know many people here this evening, and I have likely had the privilege of meeting many of those who are watching online, maybe annoying you to go down to the Tarbert Discovery Centre, or out to Nig Church, or maybe up to Croik Church. I know a lot of you take me up on these offers. Our area's got a lot to offer. But I should introduce myself for those who don't know me. I am Jason Ubych, and I have had the honour, real pleasure for the last 10 years of working here at the Clan Ross Centre at Tain Museum. I'm welcoming everybody as they return to Easter Ross. So right before I begin, and before I forget, more to the point, I better do some thanks before the event's over, and I go, oh no, I forgot to say that. So firstly, and most importantly, to the museum's volunteers. I know quite a lot of you here tonight, and I know a lot of people will see me when they turn up, but there's a big team of people all volunteering their time. And many of them are here. I wish I could make you all stand up and embarrass you. But really, without our museum, we'd be lost without you. So first and foremostly, thank you to you all. Yeah. I also wish to thank our speakers and our musicians. With the very young, talented girls earlier. It's absolutely brilliant seeing that there's young people continuing this. But I think there's no doubt that with the Giz and Briggs and everything we see, it's really good, really good. Of course, and I will reiterate this later, thanks to Clan Ross America, who have commissioned this film and give us this reason for joining, for getting here tonight. So thanks to them. Big special thanks to Balnagown Estates, not only for making the film, but for the remarkable support they've shown the museum over the last few years. It's been absolutely brilliant. So thanks to Balnagown as well. I'm not sure I did, and I'm not sure people realise just how completely the Ross family, the Ross clan, shaped the very existence of this town. But it was from this church, really founded by the Earl of Ross, given by a charter for his wicked deeds in 1320, let's be honest, that this church was founded. And it really is, it wasn't for just one priest, it was to house the relics of St. Duthus. I sometimes have fun telling the kids we had a skull in a box on the wall just up there, sticking at school kids maybe one day. But that's what it was built for. It was built to house the relics, and there was 11 people in here, priests, canons, singing boys. Each one of them was servants. And for much of the time, that is what the town was. And it grows around that. So it's founded by these Earls of Ross, the progenitors of the Ross clan. And if it weren't for him, I'm not so sure this town would have grown. So it really is central, like many places on the Ross Peninsula, to our history. But it's also fitting in another way. It was a place of pilgrimage. Centuries ago, people coming, you'd come too to see the skull on the wall up there. Quite fantastic. People used to come here, royal pilgrimage. The king coming here, borrowing Balnagown's harper for his entertainment. I thought it was only last week I shared that on Facebook. But today, the pilgrims are different. For 10 years, every day, almost, anybody who's been in the museum or volunteers know this. Who comes in? Mr. Ross, Mrs. Ross, Granny was a Ross. The pilgrims today come here not looking for the relics of St. Duthas, they're looking for their roots. And that's something we all share, us who live here today on the peninsula of Ross, and those people whose ancestors came from here. And they look and come here looking for their roots. So it's something we all have in common. They're not all Rosses, of course. I kind of noticed the banner behind me with all the surnames on it that you do find here. I've written a few down. I know we haven't reading all them out. But McCullochs, Vasses, Gairs, Monroes, many others doing the same thing from all around the world, from Holland to Finland to Australia to Canada, America, Costa Rica. You would be surprised. They are absolutely everywhere, and they come back here deliberately. They visit Scotland because they come here. They don't come here because they've come to Scotland, if that makes sense. This is where their roots are. So it's fitting, in a way, the film, The Lands of Ross, because whether you're a Mr. Ubych, and it's my home now here, the Lands of Ross, or whether you're in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, South Africa, your roots are here too. So we all share that connection quite wonderfully. And it takes me in the museum right around the world. So we're just here to watch this short film. But before we do, I'd like to introduce someone I've just had the pleasure of knowing for a year or two, and he spent a lovely day with us at the Highland Games with our team with the museum. Made quite an impression. And Robert is beginning to start a Clan Ross UK, Clan Ross Scotland, Clan Ross UK. I think I will let Robert talk for Robert, but Robert is going to say a lot of words about what he's been up to, and then he's going to introduce the film. And then we'll have a couple of more speakers and some more music, and hopefully I'll be in my pyjamas by 9:30 at home where I want to be. Robert, would you care to come up and give us a wee blether, please? And I'll take a seat and shut up for a minute. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks, Jason, for that introduction, and I'll say all my thank yous at the front of this as well. So, Jason, thank you for the introduction. We've done that one. We'll have to say a big thank you to Stephen, who's making this happen for everybody that isn't here, that's watching this live, hopefully all around the world, right now and in the future as well. So you can go back later, jump on YouTube, like and subscribe, and you can look for yourself in the crowd coming in and out and all that sort of thing, I think, or at least the back of your head, if you know what that looks like. Get a mirror. Anyway, we also have to thank all the people that have been involved in making this event happen. Mike from Clan Ross America has come across all the way from the beautiful sometimes sunny state of Minnesota, and we also have Sarah, who's been instrumental in phoning me up for starters and getting me to do things, as various other people as well. So lots of people involved behind the scenes. This hasn't happened by itself. It's a community that have made it happen, a community of people associated with the name of Ross. That's a theme here. We'll develop it a wee bit. So over the next hour, I drove up this morning. You could probably tell I'm not from Tain. If you're from Tain, you haven't seen me going about in and out the co-op very often because I live in the Central Belt. Someone has to. As I was travelling up today, I was thinking about all the different lands I was travelling through. I live in Clackmannanshire. I had to go to the Far East this morning, as people in Glasgow call it. You might know it as Edinburgh. And I travelled up through various different heartlands of different clans come to here. And I was thinking about, what is a clan? What does it mean? And the modern thing to do, that a lot of people seem to be doing now, is they go on ChatGPT or something like that. Other AIs are available. I don't use that. I just use Google. So I got a phone that's fairly new to me, and I typed in, what is a clan? And I hit search. And I think I have a note here of what it said, which, no, I've left it behind, but it basically said that it was a sort of open-topped pie with a savoury or sweet filling, and I realised I'd written flan and not clan. So Google's not Scotland-centric. We are. I mean, we're a bit biased. That's fair enough. But the thing about Scottish people is that we like where we are. We like the place. but sometimes we like to go out and about and see other things. And in fact, Scots, of course, as Jason was saying, we've travelled out across the globe, like stars scattered across the night sky. You see Scots' names right across the globe. If you go to the other side of the world, down to Antarctica, there's a bit named Ross. We just can't get away from them. It's fantastic, I think. So what is this group of people? It's a family, it's a kinship group. It's people that have a connection to a name and a place, because we're all got one thing in common. All my life, I've been human, and I think you have too. And part of the human condition is we want to belong to something. We want to have a connection to a place, to other people. You want to feel that you're part of something. What's your identity? Who are you? I had the pleasure of meeting a gentleman, a Highland gentleman called James MacDonald, who tells stories. And that sounds a bit strange. I'm not saying that he tells stories that aren't good. In fact, they're the opposite. They're fantastic. So if you go to the Scottish Storytelling Festival in Edinburgh, he's often there, kilted up in a much better outfit than mine, and he will tell you these most fantastic stories. And he is a man who said to me, "Where are your people from?" I thought, well, I said, "I'm a Ross." And for me, that was it. That's not everything that I am, but that is a key part of who I am. So all of these people that are around the world that are Rosses, or their mum was a Ross, or their auntie or their great-grandfather 3 times removed was a Ross, but they feel that connection to the place, to the people. That's part of their identity. They're looking round that scattered night sky of stars, and they're looking for constellations that spell out that name, those stars that brightly shine just that wee bit more glimmer that say Ross on them. They're looking for a direction. So where do they come? They come here. They come see Jason. They get to tell exactly all the other things they need to visit, and that's fantastic. Well, what do they find when they come? They find a land of contrasts. They find a kind of ragged lump of rock that we call Scotland. It's got heather and trees and waterfalls and mountains and all these wonderful things. And it's got all these amazing, wonderful people. People that are proud of who they are, proud of where they come from. Usually, unless, you're having to go to the council or something like that. But actually, we are people that know that we're in somewhere that's valuable. There's a unique sort of Scottish character traits, and I'm not talking about bad jokes here. I've got a friend of mine who's an engineer, and if you have an iPhone, his work might be in your pocket, because he designs computer chips, and they're about this size, I think. And he was telling me about his work involved in going around the world, working with engineers from Japan, China, the United States, and various other countries. And one of the unique things that Scottish engineers bring to that, and it's not just engineers, but it's the cultural aspect, we have this ability to hold 1, 2, 3 or more conflicting ideas, and we're actually okay with that, because we're kind of complicated. We are shy about who we are. There's that contrast. We want to keep things, preserve them. We're also quite keen to make new things at the same time. We're always a wee bit we don't want to show off too much, but I'm going to say that maybe we should do a little bit more of that in a Scottish way, obviously. So Scotland's full of real people and real stories. That's what we find when we come here. Well, I come here. If you live here, you're already here, and you know it, and you're steeped in it. You see it everywhere you go. Maybe you're kind of almost tripping over it at times. The first time I came to Tain was about 10, 12 years ago. I worked for the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, and I travelled up to the cemetery, the old cemetery next to the golf course. And we did our work, and I had 5 minutes to have a look round. And I'm a Ross, and I couldn't believe that every second or third grave was another Ross. This is where the people come from, and they're scattered out. When the descendants come now, all the way from places like Alloa, for me, it's not that far, what do I find? Actually, I find that this is a welcoming place, and I find that the Rosses are already everywhere around Scotland. I don't need to come to Tain, but I want to. And that has to continue on as we start to develop what I'm going to talk about for a short time, the New Clan Ross Society. So we want to make Tain our focus for what this society is going to be, but it's not the only place in Scotland, it's not the only place in the world. We know that Rosses are all over Scotland. I've just got too many notes here. You see that? we're kind of shy people, as I mentioned. And Rosses are the big story here, in Tain and round about. But for everybody that's watching at home as well, of course we're the big story. We're the main event. I don't mean me. I don't mean Jason or Hugh or Mike or Jennifer or anybody. Collectively, we are the story. Our ancestors and those that are going to come after us. Let's tell people about that. Let's join together. I'm going to make you all do it all at once. But let's join together and tell people who we are, what we're about, the wonderful and amazing things that we've done. Just before I came in, before the start of the event, I went into the museum to use the facilities, and you go and see all the different names of Rosses that have gone around the world and what they've done. People are looking from all over, even from as far away as Inverness. They'll be looking up Clan Ross and wondering, how do I get involved? That's why I've ended up standing here today. So I'm interested in, obviously, Rosses. I'm interested in where I've come from. I'm a Ross, I know that. So what do? Jump on Google. This time I managed to spell the word clan. And what did I find? There was Rosses in America, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, the Netherlands, gathering together and saying, hello, here we are. We're having good fun. We're going to tell people who we are, what we're all about. And I thought, I want to join something like that. That sounds like good fun. We can have a bit of a party at times, a ceilidh, get people together, do good things for each other, become a community, because actually we are a community and we just don't know it yet. Let's have that realization moment and join together. So there's nobody else doing it. I'm going to tell you about a couple of things that seem unlikely. Now, this is going to sound strange. So, you ever hear a story in life and you think that doesn't sound like it could be quite true? Well, I'm going to tell you two things that won't sound true, but I promise you that they are. And a third thing that I want to become true, and I think could have been unlikely maybe even a year ago. The first thing is, Jason's hanging his head there. He knows what I'm going to say. Do you know that a unicorn once came to Tain? Okay. You're thinking, right, he's been on the whiskey already, we know this. Okay. It's true. If you go to the museum, and if you haven't been, you should go, and if you have been, you should go again, and, the donation box is there. You don't have to pay to go in, I think you have to pay to get back out, right enough. In the reign of James IV, he came to visit Tain, of course, and he gave money. One of the pieces of money was a gold coin called a unicorn. So, a unicorn came to Tain. Yes, okay. That was easy. So, but that's an object. You can hold it in your hand. You could talk to it, but it won't talk back. So the next thing I'm going to tell you sounds more unlikely. This morning, I met a unicorn. And you are now thinking, well, what does that mean? I promise you, there's no whiskey under here. I didn't meet a rhino. I didn't meet a pony or a horse with a headband on. I met a gentleman whose name of his official office is Unicorn. He works in the court of the Lord Lion, and that's what his official name is. He can put it on his passport. That's a bit strange and unlikely sounding. Now, here's something, flip that on its head. Oh, there's a Clan Ross Society in the UK. It sounds like it should have happened, but it hasn't. How do we change this? Well, I'm up for it. So this is why I'm here. This is why I've been trying to get people interested and excited and hopefully to join on board and say, well, look, if all these other clans can do it, so can we. They talk about FOMO, fear of missing out. Well, I don't think we need to be worrying about missing out because we've got lives that we're living and we're getting on with things, but we can add in this element of community. We can add in this element of friendship, celebrating shared culture, shared events, building something that's actually there for all these people that are coming in from as far away as Alloa for me, or Minnesota for Mike, or all corners of the globe, or even all the corners of Ross-shire. They want to come together and find something that celebrates being a Ross. If the Mackenzies can do it, we can definitely do it. So what is it going to be? Well, I'm not sure yet, because I am one person and I'm not a clan. What's a clan? It's not some sort of pastry dish. It's a group of people. How do we do this? Let's get together. So I'm well up for it, as you can tell. You'll be wondering, what does it mean? Well, yes, things like getting along to the Highland Games. There can be all sorts of events like this, because this is not a Clan Ross UK event, but there could be something like this in the future. If you think this is good, let's do more of it. All sorts of possibilities are out there. Different clans are doing different things. We don't have to be like them. But, for instance, the clan Carrie, they are the bards. This is what they tell people, and I believe them. And what they do is they encourage musical events, and they sponsor people to write poetry and things like that. That's good, the Carries do that. The McEwens, their motto is Reveresco, I grow strong again, and they have for their crest an oak stump with new sprigs of growth coming from it. So what do? They plant trees. They say, we're the clan that plants trees. Well, that's pretty good. So what's Clan Ross? Well, we know it's a group of people. We know that they've got a name that they share, maybe a bit of DNA or all sorts of other social and family connections. What's it going to be now? I think it's up to all of us to get together and decide that. You're going to see this short film. I think it's quite something. The first thing I did, I've seen it before, I will admit. The first thing that I did after I watched it was, I watched it again. You're going to want to do that as well. So you'll be able to view it again online at later time. Yeah. The controls are there to turn it on. So I'll hand that over to Jason. But listen, we're going to make this clan society together. The society is not the clan. It's the mechanism by how we make all the fun and good stuff happen. So let's get together. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Hopefully just by magic.
And talw seo aharachuch. This land has changed. Gluas yes na hainche. It moves in the rivers. Igal cumad tron chloich. It shapes through the stone. Ishaloch eragui. It drifts upon the wind. Much that once was endures, rooted in earth, hand and in memory. The lands of Ross existed long before there was ever a clan Ross. Filled with lengthy fields, rolling hills and flowing waters, it was from this highly fertile and desirable area that the clan took its name. And so it was, extending from the east coast all the way across the country to the Western Isles. The clan of Ross held territory. Within sits an ancient seat of the Ross family, Balnagown Castle. Rising in quiet majesty among the wooded folds of Easter Ross, its walls, unmoved, bloom with the softness of ivy and age. Long before roads were paved and fields tamed, the lairds of Ross built their seat here. Held by stone upon stone, watching the tide shift on the firth beyond the lengthening of day, wide-swept columns bear mark of long-forgotten seasons, only broken by gentle breeze through pine and birch. Behind narrow windows, lairds once planned, now lost to time. Their echoes fall as dust on ancient crests. Beyond the castle, the estate stretches like a quiet kingdom unto itself. Scattered with relics of power, beauty and age, both walled and wild, with the memory of hands long gone, where once those walked and thought beneath the trees, still and dignified, framed by stone and time. Bridges arching gracefully over dark water, worn smooth by centuries of passage, leading to cottages among the quiet fields and forgotten trees. To the west, where the land rises and the air grows thin, Benmore Ascent stands tall and still, crowned in mist, casting its shadow on a world changed. And so Balnagown endures, restored and renowned, and in its enduring, it remembers.
I have to get my glasses.
That's just fantastic. Really wonderful to see. So much thanks to Mike for setting this in motion, but everyone else we see who's been involved in this, brilliant. And in a way, this is for us. This is going to go out, and people are going to see it, and they're going to go, "Oh, I have to go there." Deeply, deeply grateful for Balnagown Estates for granting permission to film. Get a wonderful view inside the castle. It looks like something out of a Vogue magazine or something. It really is fantastic. It's extraordinary, as does the surrounding estates, but I've had the privilege for the last 2 years of taking people round the absolutely stunning surroundings. Brought several people to tears, usually as we go up Balnagown River towards King James's Bridge. And it's not my rubbish the tears are welling up at, it's the scene. People are deeply connected to this place, and it's an absolute privilege to do. And it really is. I know quite a few have joined me with the book festival and things like that as we've gone round, and it really is beautiful, and I think the film reflects that brilliantly. Yeah, just thank you for being a wee part of that. I feel like I almost know the castle now, so thank you very much for that. Before I welcome our next speaker, I want to say something important. Every one of our guests this evening, our speakers, our musicians, shares more than talent. They are people who have actively protected and sustained Highland culture. From the outside, it seems as though Highland music, language, dance simply survive. But they don't. They have endured only because people like our guests tonight have fought to keep them alive. when it would have been far easier just to let them fade, especially the language. They deserve far more than the kind words. They are the guardians of who we are. I must add to that, actually. I haven't wrote this in my notes, but our vice chair isn't here tonight. We could add him to that, Philip, and my mother-in-law, Gail, thank you, who go and do the country dancing. Gail, shout out, how long have you been doing it with Philip? Years. Yeah, and on a local level, they do it as well. So thanks not just for the apple pies, Granny. Thanks for that as well, because it doesn't just go by itself. It takes work, and kudos to everybody here. They've saved myself for talking rubbish, but really, that's easy. The musicians, talented musicians and storytellers, brilliant. And with that, it's a great pleasure to introduce somebody, Fiona. Fiona Dalgetty, who's from here. I don't think we've never met before, Fiona, have we? Fiona is the vice chair of Fèis Rois, which I think, Liam, you play a big part in as well, don't you? And she's come to tell us a little bit about that. Come on up, Fiona, and tell us a few words.
Fèis gur má húlíine, ha mi glé holichte bhíráis an ballagúich noch. It's lovely to be back in Tain tonight. I'm a former pupil of Tain Royal Academy and a founding member of Giz and Briggs back in the day playing the fiddle. And I've had the privilege of being the Chief Executive and Artistic Director of Fèis Ros for the last 16 years. But I grew up going to the Fèis. I was a participant. I went along to my first Fèis Ros event as a keen Highland dancer in Ullapool, aged 9, and came home a fiddle player with a fiddle in my hand. And that happens to lots of people. So Fèis Ros, Fèis just means festival in Gaelic, but it's much more than a festival. And Ros is the Gaelic word for Ross-shire, where we are. And our charity will be 40 years old next year. We're going to have our 40th birthday in 2026. It was founded in 1986, and it was actually founded by someone who lived in Tain at that time. Lots of you, I'm sure, will remember Christine Martin, who was the strings instructor at Tain Academy. She had taken her family on holiday to Barra, the Isle of Barra, in the early 1980s, and there was a summer school there, so the people on the island had realised that the language was incredibly fragile and people weren't learning the Gaelic songs and playing the music, and they organised a summer school during the Glasgow Fair fortnight. So they'd had a lot of depopulation as well. People had moved to the Central Belt for work, and they always came home to see Granny and Grandpa and whoever else in the holidays. So that was the perfect time to set up this summer school. Christine went along and she came back to Ross and Cromarty District Council and said, we need this here. And there was an amazing team of people at the council at that time who said, yeah, absolutely, we do. And they founded Fèis Ros. So it was run by the district council for the first 5 years before it became a charity. And we aim to provide transformational opportunities for people of all ages to engage with traditional music and with the Gaelic language and the cultural heritage of this place in which we live. And in 1986, at that first event in Ullapool in June that year, there were 50 children and young people, and musicians actually. The whole team was about 50 people that attended, from Easter Ross, from Tain, Wester Ross, and now we work with around 5,000 people regularly throughout the year. And I have a team of 8 staff in the office in Dingwall, and we contract, depending on projects, between 150 and 180 freelance musicians and artists every year. And our work has now expanded right across the Highlands and Scotland and indeed the world. I have come from Ullapool today. We've just had, I think lots of people, when they think about the Fèis, they think about a week-long residential experience. So that's what I've just come from this week. We had 88 children and young people with us from Monday to Friday, having an amazing time. Lots of them, it's the first time they've stayed away from home for a week, and they've learned all sorts of new skills this week. We do classes for children and young people from 8 to 18, and from complete beginner right through to advanced young musicians. And we have this really clear ladder of progression for people. So I'll maybe talk you through that a little bit, actually. We are working in Tain still, along with a couple of partner organisations, High Life Highland and Fèis and Gael. We have a contract on behalf of the Scottish Government to deliver the Youth Music Initiative in Highland. So every child in the nearly 200 primary schools in the Highlands will receive an 8-week traditional music project in primary 5. So that's totally separate from the instrumental instructors that go into school. Some of our musicians go in, they work with the classroom teacher and the kids, and they learn about their music, and they learn some Gaelic language, and it's all connected to the wider curriculum. So we also, through music, enable teaching staff to see that you can learn skills in numeracy and literacy and health and well-being at the same time. And that might spark somebody's imagination if they've not come across traditional music before, if they don't have it in their family. And then they might come after school to one of our Fèis clubs. So in Tain, for example, on a Tuesday, our musicians will meet the pupils after school at Craighill and give them a snack, and they'll stay for an hour and a half and make music together. And through that informal process of songs and games through music, they might then decide they want to learn an instrument. And we have an instrument bank, so families don't need to worry about buying an expensive instrument like a clarsach, a small harp, or an accordion, or a fiddle, or whatever it might be. And we run a programme of weekly classes. So in Ross-shire at the moment, we have about 200 people a week, including adult learners. So if you're feeling inspired, have a look on our website, coming to our weekly classes. And then if the young people progress, they've done the school workshops, they've done the Fèis Club, they've done their instrumental instruction, and they're getting on with their instrument, they might come to the residential that we've just ran. And then, for 16 to 25-year-olds, like the amazing youngsters that played at the start, Leona on the fiddle, was on our Gaelic Trail programme this summer. So we run a paid professional development programme in the summer called the Gaelic Trail, and it's been running for quite a long time, since the year 2000. And the idea is that it's two-pronged. It's a cultural tourism initiative. We try to bring really high-quality traditional music to places where we know visitors will be, but they might not otherwise encounter it. So our musicians will play in historic venues, museums, galleries, shops, pubs, restaurants. And the other part of it is to give these young people the full experience of being a musician and what that might be like if they choose a career in performance or in the music industry. So they have an intensive training week when we put them in bands. And by the end of the week, we want them to play a 45-minute concert set, play for a 3-hour Gaelic dance, know how to call all of the dances, know how to set up a PA system and do their own sound in a village hall, know how to talk to a sound engineer at a huge festival, and then we take them on the road and they do all of these things. And beyond that, we give them all another role in the band. So somebody has to be the tour manager, phoning ahead to the venues. Somebody has to be the finance manager and make sure they meet the targets we set them. Somebody's in charge of marketing. Somebody's in charge of social media. All these different skills that you'll have to do as a freelance musician. And then, if they do decide they want to have a career in music, very often they'll come back and take part in our tutor training programme and teach for us. So half of the tutor team last week were, like myself, former participants of the organisation that are now working in music in Scotland, working alongside our tradition bearers and elders. So that's the kind of ladder of progression that we offer for young people. So once you're in, you kind of never leave. We've got lots of people that have been involved for a long time. We've got a couple of our tutors right at the front here as well. It's lovely to see. We also have, I talk a lot about access and excellence, and I think they both go hand in hand. So we believe everybody should have access to our cultural heritage and our music. And it's so deeply linked to the landscape and the place and that sense of us all being part of this community together. Some of the other projects that we run, we have a partnership with Carnegie Hall in New York, and we run their Lullaby project here in Ross-shire. So new parents can come along for 12 weeks and work with our musicians. And everybody at the start says, "Oh, I'm not musical, don't make me sing." And by the end of it, they're not only singing in their daily routines with their babies, they've written their own lullaby for their child, and they've recorded it professionally, and they've stood on a stage and performed it. And the lovely thing about that group project is when we step away after 12 weeks, inevitably they've got a WhatsApp group, they're all still meeting up for coffee, and they've got this social network, and they're not as isolated. The Adult Learner programme I told you about, when I first started in this role, our big flagship event, which some of you might know, our Adult Fèis, is always the May Bank holiday weekend. We take 250 people as delegates on the workshop programme, and we have a big fringe festival in Ullapool over that weekend. And it just struck me that it was really odd that those were the only 3 days of the year that Fèis Ross worked with adults. So we started a year-round adult learning programme, and one very dreich night in January 2011, I put an advert in the Ross-shire Journal and said, "Were you told you were tone deaf at school? Have you got an accordion in your attic? Come along to Tulloch Castle on this Wednesday night." and more than 55 people, I think, turned up, and it was snowing and wet and dark. And it's really grown, that adult programme now, and some of those early learners are now really competent musicians, and they've created their own community band called Fèis the Music, and they go and play at farmers markets and all kinds of events locally, and any money they raise they give back to our youth programme, which is wonderful. I said a little bit there about the schools programme, the success that we've had in Ross-shire. With that programme, we've been bought in by other local authorities, so although we're Fèis Ross, we've just finished a 10-year £1 million project in Dumfries and Galloway, working in all of their schools. And now that we've stepped away, their musicians are trained up and are continuing that work. And similarly, we're now working, and have been for a long time, in Aberdeenshire. They've seen what we've been doing with Gaelic and asked if we'll come in and do some work in Doric and Scots in communities there. Something that's really important for us as well is sustaining musicians, not just teaching, but also commissioning them to write new music. So I was interested to hear about the clan that's commissioning musicians to write poetry and music. And we do that often to tell the story of our place. So, for example, I have commissioned an amazing accordion player. In fact, the last tune that the girls played was one of John Somerville's tunes from Ubych. John wrote a whole album about 10 years ago now for us, inspired by the voyage of the Hector, the ship that left Ullapool in 1773 for Pictou in Nova Scotia. And that's a beautiful album and piece of work. It's available on Bandcamp. And we've also commissioned Lauren McCall, a wonderful fiddle player from Fortrose in the Black Isle, has written an album for us all about the Brand-seer, the life and prophecies of the Brand-seer. And I'm seeing the banners around the room tonight about the witch trials. Lauren's also written an amazing album with Rachel Newton called Heel and Harrow, which tells all of those stories as well, so powerfully through music. And they're amazing professional pieces of work, but they're also great resources to use with children and young people in schools. I mentioned access and excellence. So we work with all of the special schools. We do a lot of work with St Duffus School here in Tain, and St Clement's in Dingwall and Drummond and Inverness. We really firmly believe that everybody can make music. It's in us. It's what we do before we can even walk and speak and talk. We're dancing and we're moving and making sounds. And we really have a really strong commitment to inclusion. So part of our Cayley Trail programme, we have these musicians that are aspiring to go to the conservatoire, to study at conservatoire level, working side by side with young adults with learning disabilities who are really passionate about folk music. We also have a really big programme for care experienced young people. In Highland, for many years, there's not been enough placements for children and young people to stay in Highland. And there's been a big push by the council, thankfully, in recent years to bring children and young people home. And as part of that, our musicians will work with them one-to-one to connect them with the culture and the language and find out where their musical passions are and write songs together and have a lot of fun. So those are some of those streams of work that we do. There's been lots of chat about kinship and community, and quite often we do special projects as well as our core work that I've just spoken about. And one of those projects some of you might have seen, but if you've not, it's on our YouTube channel. There's a lovely series of films. They're all 20 minutes long. But I have worked in partnership with Duncan Chisholm, the fiddle player. We've done a project several times now called Kin and the Community. And we take senior students, 5th, 6th year university students that are really competent musicians to the School of Scottish Studies archives and ask them to find some archive material from about somebody in the place in which they live. So, for example, we made a film about Belan McAngus from the Seaboard Villages, who's one of the last Gaelic speakers in the Seaboard Villages. And they found some amazing interviews with Belan when she would have been in her 80s that were probably recorded in the 1960s. And then they found people in the Seaboard Villages who remembered Belan, and they met and interviewed them. And then they composed an original soundtrack, including very old Gaelic songs that were sung by Belan, and some of their own new music, keeping that carrying stream of tradition going. And we've used the same format every time. They create a 20-minute film, the musicians sit in front and play the live soundtrack while you watch the film, but they're all on YouTube. And we've been invited by our partners at the National Celtic Festival in Australia. We've done a project out there with them using that same format about a family from Skye. So we have lots of international partnerships. For a long time. I think since 2011 we've been working with the National Celtic Festival in Port Arlington and Victoria. And often our musicians go back and forth and we co-create things together. And of course Gaelic is one of the 6 Celtic languages, so we also have really strong partnerships with our friends in Cornwall and the Isle of Man and Wales and Ireland, of course. And in Brittany, the biggest Celtic festival in the world is in Lorient in Brittany every summer, and we have a big part in Scotland's representation at that festival. I think they sold something like 900,000 tickets over the 10 days to the many, many, many layers of that festival that happen. So our work is quite extensive, and people are interested in the work that we're doing right here in Ross-shire in terms of how we're preserving this tradition and the deep connection between language and music and art and landscape and place and people, and how we're carrying it forward. You know, it's not something that we're preserving and putting in a jar and screwing the lid on tight. It's evolving and moving all the time. And we work a lot at the moment with colleagues in Vietnam, where they have 49 minority languages, each with their own traditional musics. And we've done quite a lot of work with them, and we'll have Vietnamese musicians coming here to Dingwall in January. I think that gives you just a bit of a flavour of what we do. I'm sure I will have missed out lots and lots of things. I'm just going to check on my notes here, which are not paper. If there's anything interesting I should be telling you. Online, we do some online learning with our Gaelic programme. So I know some of you are online tonight. We have once a month a conversation circle for people who would like to start learning Gaelic. And then also once a month we have a slightly more advanced Gaelic language session where we have a guest speaker talking about an interesting topic for 15 minutes, and then everybody can dive in and ask questions. And we also have lots of resources on our YouTube channel. So if you fancy picking up a tin whistle and giving it a go at home yourself, there's tuition videos, there's Gaelic song learning videos, there's fiddle learning videos, there's all kinds of things that are online as well. And I guess just to give you an idea of how we fund it, we've grown really considerably over the years. So depending on our special projects that run, our turnover can be anything from £800,000 to £1 million a year. And we receive 3% as a grant from the Highland Council and about just short of 40% from Creative Scotland, our National Arts Council. So the remaining 50% we raise ourselves. So often it's through earned income. We charge for the residential course that we've just been on, although it's heavily subsidised. We always have pay what you can offers, and we have a lot of free activity as well, but we do have some earned income. And I spend a lot of time writing to trusts and foundations, and we do lots of individual giving and philanthropic giving as well. But thank you so much for inviting me to talk to you tonight. And I've got a gift for everybody on the way out. There's a free album. This is some of our alumni. When it was COVID and we couldn't run the Cayley Trail, we made a double CD instead. It's also available online on Bandcamp, but there's a copy for everybody in the room to take home and a little flyer just telling you a little bit more about what we do. And it would be lovely to see you at an event sometime. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fiona. We're next going to have Kenny Taylor, I think, coming down and giving us a wee talk. But just a couple of wee points to Robert's Unicorns. I should have brought this up last time. If you have a look above on the poster above King James's, the King James poster, obviously this won't work online. You can actually see the coin or an image of it, and I have great fun asking the kids when they come in, do they believe me? Did the king take a unicorn to Tain? And it's true. The coin element of it totally spoils the story, I'm afraid. Kenny's going to come down and tell us a little bit about his work with Northwords now. And I must admit, I wasn't, I think I stumbled upon it, but knowing you were coming, I had a little look, and I think you've got quite a lot to tell us, Kenny, because it looks absolutely fantastic. So if you wouldn't mind coming down and saying a few words. Thank you.
Thanks very much. What a great event, and I'm just in awe of this building, and I've heard through Sarah that the stained glass on the side looks spectacular in daylight, so I'll have to come back and appreciate it there. But also, I'd almost like to applaud again to Fiona, because those of us who've lived in the north for a long time know just how much the Fèis movement has done to energise communities across the whole place and now, as we've heard, far beyond. So knowing, for example, on the Isle of Egg, how vibrant aspects are there. Ullapool is amazing when there's Fèis activities going on. I'll admit I'm not a Ross. I've got no connections to the clan, but as was introduced there, then I hope I've got connections to the wider culture that includes your own background and also the kind of beating heart of culture that Fiona was very strongly alluding to in some of what she said, and also Robert before that in terms of connections of kin and kinship and beyond, and kinship with ourselves and kinship with the land, as we saw in the film. So what I'll be doing, and Sarah asked me if I could actually explore some of the threads of where we came from to get to where we are now. I'll be saying that, later on I'll tell you a lot more about this publication, for which most of you, I think, should be able, if you wish, to pick up a copy at the back. So if you've got the capacity, you can be going out with a CD and a paper there. Those of you that can't, including the people that are watching online around the world, then you can get the full content of both this issue and many others online as complete PDFs, as well as searchable for the authors that contribute to us. So what I'll be doing is I'll be delving back quite a lot and then coming in to the present. So if you'll forgive me, I'll read some of this because I'll also be quoting from some quite old things and coming gradually to new ones. So as we've been hearing in part through some other people, and as we very well know, language is very much part of what makes us human. It's in many ways what distinguishes us from many, many other creatures, complex though their behaviour might be. Language is what makes us tick. And combinations of language more than that, the combinations that come to stories, to songs, to lyrics, those are things which pull you in to the wider culture. And in that culture, that's part of what makes life worthwhile, because it allows our imaginations to soar. It allows us to find bonds of kindred and kinship. It allows us to think of the past as well as the present and visualise the future. So a community, if you like, of shared imaginings. And here in the lands of Ross and Monroe and Mackay and Gunn, Sinclair and Sutherland and others, those bonds can be strengthened through further shaping of stories and lyrics. So the literature of the present is what I'm about as the editor of Northwords now. But long, long threads go back through spoken culture, predominantly through the millennia, and then eventually written culture. And in that, although the forms of the words have changed, the ways that are combined in different languages, some of which we wouldn't really have much understanding of now, some of the themes stay constant. Those themes of love and loss and food and scarcity and conflict and cooperation and the beauty and the brevity of life itself. And here in the north and across Scotland, in the cultures and languages that we've grown here, there's an awareness, and again somebody was saying that earlier, about nature and about landscape as being a fundamental part of how people react to the business of being alive here and being in community here. And that part of that is still featured in the work that I see as typical of new writing, new creativity from the north that's represented in Northwords now. But I'll pull in some pretty deep strands of language and go back actually to, in terms of written down work, the very, very beginning, the earliest poem that we know in Scotland. It was written by a woman from a female perspective, and I think it was scribbled in the margin notes on one of the manuscripts of the Gododin, which used to be thought of as a Welsh creation. That's because it was written in a Proto-Welsh. It was written in Brittonic, but actually it was probably written in Scotland and may have been written in Dumbarton. So the poem Dinnogad's Coat is actually the earliest extant poem by a woman anywhere in Britain, let alone a poem in Scotland. And that, I just find it very, very exciting in how you can connect with somebody over the centuries and more through literature like that. It's like all art, and some of the work in here gives us that. It's not just you're looking at it, you're feeling it, you're knowing something about the people that actually, or the person that created that. So this is a translation of Dinnogad's Code from probably 1400 odd years ago. And it's written as a lullaby, but it's also an elegy because it's to the man who probably died in the raid that is described in the Gododin. Specht, Dinnogad's coat, I fashioned it of pelts of stoat. Twittering, I sang, and so 8 slaves would sing. When your daddy went off to hunt, spear in his shoulder, club in his hand, he'd call the hounds so fleet of foot, gif, gaff, seek him, fetch, fetch. He'd strike fish from a coracle, as a lion strikes a small animal. When to the mountain your daddy would go, he'd bring back a stag, a boar, a roe, a speckled mountain grouse, a fish from Derwenneth Falls. Of those your daddy reached with his lance, whether a boar, a fox, or a lynx, none could escape unless it had wings. And just see how much you can get from those few lines, how the past comes into your present imagination, how creatures start to move through it, and how much the natural world is actually vibrant and to the fore in that, as it is in so much poetry that came later through the praise poems that are often to landscape and places, as praise poems of other kinds are in honour of clan chiefs, and I'm sure there's plenty of that in the history of the clan Ross. So beyond those creatures, then I would also say with at that time my notes here are shuffling around. There's great stuff if you go back to the early Celtic poetry and switching languages, going back to things like Arran of the Stags, which was written in Irish Gaelic, but written about Scotland and in Scotland, and of course the Irish Gaelic leading to our present day Gaelic. And there again, massive importance of the natural world. I'll just quote one verse. Wanton deer upon its peaks, mellow blaeberries on its heath, cold water in its streams, mast upon its brown oaks. Some of the earliest of that type of poetry, I think, is as good as anything that's been written today. And as somebody who gets excited by the natural world a lot, I get excited by the sound of the seals singing on Gizen Briggs, for example. They're great singers. If you know, those of you locally will know that. So having that vibrancy coming through is just really exciting. And then fast forwarding way forward, and I've got limited time, so I'm leaping through centuries and more here, and going way on, maybe 1,000 years, to Duncan Ban MacIntyre and his praise of Bendoran, the mountain in Perthshire, near where he grew up in Glenorchy and where he stalked deer. That's one of the finest poems in all of Gaelic. And for him, I'll just quote a couple of bits of that to give you the flavour. And this is in a translation by Ian Crichton-Smith, the poet who wrote in both Gaelic and English in the 20th century. Luxuriant mountains, sprouting and gnawed, more heathy and cloudless than all the hills in the world. How long my obsession, my song and my passion. She's the first in the nation for grace and for beauty. Her gifts are so many, her fruits are so bonny, and rarer than any, her bushes and leafage. So again, that vibrancy of nature, just leaping through that. And to link Ian Crichton-Smith to the greatest Gaelic poet of the 20th century, one of the greatest of all, I'll quote the translation that he did of one of Sorley's poems from Sorley MacLean's first collection, Poems to Eimer, which brought him to international attention. And there I'm thinking that if you can imagine being on a little rowing boat on the Clarick, a bit of water in the Minch, on a very sunny day, feel the warmth. You know, if you're feeling chilly in here, just picture the Minch and picture the waves there and picture the sunshine. And what Sorley wrote in an uncharacteristically short poem to one of his loves there was a poem called Under Sail for Hjall. And that goes, my boat was sailing the Clarick on a smiling ocean day. My left hand on the rudder, my right with the sail in play. Up front in the wind's way you sat, my young dear, the rays of the sun entangled in the ropes of your lighted hair. O God, if that course were steady to the harbour of my will, not even the butt of Lewis would appease my thirsty sail. So that's one of Sorley's shortest poems, actually, and I still love it. I still get the vibrancy that comes through that. But if we come ashore now, come ashore to these lands of Ross and Caithness and Sutherland around where we are right now, and I'll bring us right through to the present. And here, or in the near present, thinking of the legacies of those who have come not so long before and who still influence what's going on now, and then some of the people that are very much alive and continuing to keep the culture and the beating heart of it alive. Well, of course, in this part of the world, it's obvious that I'd have to talk briefly about Neil Gunn, who grew up in Helmsdale, who wrote some of his finest work, drawing on his experiences as a child in Helmsdale. And as an adult, he was writing some of what you would call modernist literature. It's complicated stuff, some of it. Some of it is also very straightforward, very, very to the point, but making the landscape, the land, the people, the community, and the life there come alive. And not least, he's doing that in his famous work, The Silver Darlings, about the herring fishing, and in Highland River, set in the Helmsdale River, and in a beautiful, beautiful book, which is almost like a long prose poem called Morning Tide. And those of you that know his work will know what I'm talking about. Those of you that haven't come across him yet, seek him out. Your lives will be enriched by actually experiencing the writing of Neil Gunn. And there's still a Neil Gunn writing competition. Entries are open for it now, actually, for the next one. That is very important, encouraging new writing from the north that chimes with the spirit of what Neil was doing. And in that, some previous alumni as former winners of that competition include Michel Faber, the internationally renowned author who used to live at Hill of Fern, actually. And his work is known across the world, as is the work of Kirsty Gunn, who's not related to Neil Gunn, but is an internationally respected author whose work includes fiction that is featured in a major film, short stories, non-fiction, and essays in particular. And I would draw attention to Kirsty's work. Kirsty lives part of the time in Sutherland and really not very far from Tain. And her novel, The Big Music, is something which ties together aspects of the joy and the complexity of big music, the pibroch, with a structure that reflects that in a work of literature. It's an astonishing piece of work. So if you haven't seen The Big Music, seek it out. But for Kirsty is now a great supporter of Northwords now, and a friend. She gives a lot of support, both in terms of discussing ideas and also in terms of providing essays for the work itself, which is something that is really, really encouraging, because to get to Northwords now, our mission, if you like, I'm not going to give you a mission statement, but the idea with this publication, which has now been around for over 30 years in different forums. It started off as just Northwords, and then after a brief hiatus at the turn of the millennium, it was relaunched in this broadsheet format and became Northwords now. So our core idea with that is to encourage new creative writing from across the north, especially the Highlands and Islands, but beyond that as well. The Highland boundary fault and in some ways the mid-Atlantic ridge shouldn't be seen as rigid boundaries to work that chimes with a Highland and Island culture, that chimes with some of the spirits of the things that I've shared with you, albeit briefly here. So we're encouraging new creative writing, and we're doing that in a way that can represent new fiction in the form of stories, particularly short stories. It could be essays, it can be poetry, and there can be other forms within that. But crucially, what we're doing with it, and what excites me, what really continues to excite me, is that we can have work within this by people who may never have had work published anywhere before, together with people like Kirsty, like James Robertson, for example, like Robin Fulton Macpherson in Norway, the renowned poet and translator. You can have new work from new writers, whatever age they are, published together with Wheel Kent figures. And the lovely thing about that, from where I sit in the editor's chair, is that I've seen and I know how much of a boost that can give to a new writer. The simple fact of, if you write a poem, and you may have been writing poems just for your own entertainment or family use for years, who knows? If you write a poem and you see it in print and receive modest payment for it, you're now a published poet. And that can raise the game in your head. It can liberate the imagination and mean that you will go out there, potentially, I hope, and do more and do more. And there's an example of that, a shining example in the last few years, again not far from here, was Kate O'Neill McCulloch, who lives at Edgerton, had her first ever poem published in Northwords now in the summer of 2021. And since then, well, first off, I was really heartened because Kate said she was able to tell her father, before he died in Ireland, that she was now a poet, which was great. But she's picked up the ball and run with it in ways that she's done a joint collection with an Irish woman poet. She's had a pamphlet produced. She's read all over Scotland and I think slightly beyond. And her full collection, the Bone Folder, is now on the short list for a major national Scottish Saltire Award. So that's the sort of thing that floats my boat. It takes it out into the Chlarach and beyond. It makes me sing with people like Sorley MacLean. What also floats my boat is the way that new work can come in, whether from the Wheel Kent figures or whether from others. And I'm thinking, I get this. I get the vibrancy of the cultural connections, of the land connections, or the community connections. You don't need to be ticking all these boxes in one piece of work. But there's a spirit. You know it when you see it. You know it when you smell it, don't you? That art will out. And that is part, as I said at the start, of what makes us human. It's what makes us tick. The things that we're getting from that are things which join us together in kinship, in kindred, whether we're calling it clan, as in Clan Ross, whether we're calling it community of people in the Highlands and Islands, whether we're calling it community between people in the Highlands and Islands and people in North America, in Norway, in Iceland, beyond, with whom we have great affinity. So that's really what we're about with this. We're publishing in Gaelic, we're publishing in all the variants of Scots that come into us, whether Shetlandic or Doric or urban Scots. We're publishing in English, and we're hoping that through that, people across Scotland who can pick up one of these, people online who can read one or more of these, will actually get it, that the culture is both something which has deep and exciting roots, but it's also something that's alive right here, right now, and we're celebrating it as we do, and we're celebrating it tonight, right here. So thank you very much for the opportunity of sharing it.
Who expected a 1,400-year-old poem? Not me. Thank you very much, Kenny. That was fantastic. And as I said, I went on and had a look, and most of the work is up there as PDFs. You can download and have a little look. You can look by author. I did notice a few Rosses there, adding some poems to it, Kenny. And even had a wee read of some of them, to be quite honest. So I'd encourage everyone to go and have a look at Kenny's work. What I wrote was, thank you, Fiona, thank you, Kenny. What we've heard reminds us that tradition is something not preserved behind glass in a museum. It is something lived and breathed and carried forward by real people. Now we're going to turn to one of those, someone I know quite well, someone from Tain, who's going to sing us a nice song. Carrie, come and speak to us. Yeah, come on then. Lovely how I came across this. I'd gone up to Ardguy during their celebrations of 50 years celebrating being part of Sutherland, and they flown the Clan Ross Centre up and asked if I would like to come up and join them. And I first asked them if they'd got the wrong number, and said, you want me to come up and celebrate Ardguy and Bona Bridge or Ardguy particularly being part of Clan Ross for 50 years? And I went up with my little speech, which was 50 years of Ardguy, 800 years of Clan Ross, and it was quite spectacular, actually. It was really good, wasn't it? And me and Carrie got talking, and we were talking, I don't even know how we ended up talking about Uilleam Ros, the Gaelic Bard.
I know him as Uilleam.
Uilleam. For all our French visitors who come every year looking for Uilleam Ros, and I say, yeah, it's Uilleam in Scotland.
Yeah, Uilleam Ros.
Or William. But William was a renowned Gaelic Bard from Gairloch. Carrie, can you tell us, because I'm just mimicking what you told me.
I think that you probably know more than I do, but yes, Uilleam Ros was round about the same time as Robert Burns, and, you know, some people say that Robert Burns influenced a lot of his Gaelic poems. He's kind of like the Gaelic Bard. There's so many poems he's written, there's so many songs he's written, but a lot of people actually say that they influenced each other as well. So this particular song, will I go into that?
Yeah, go on then, yeah.
You like this?
No, it was just really sad. And he died before he was in his 30s, I think, or 28 or 26 or something, so he was a young man. It was a love song.
And this is actually, I'll go into that in a little minute, but he does sad very well. I mean, Gaelic songs tend to be sad, but because he's a poet, the pictures that he's, like the second verse of the song, he's talking about, let me have a look here. He wishes that they'd been locked in a room together. Sorry, I'll start again. He is talking about this lady, Marion Ross, so another Ross that he fell in love with, and she didn't love him back. She went and married a sailor instead and moved to Liverpool. But this song is just talking about his love for her and how he wished that he'd been locked in a room. And he wished he was for 6 days of the week. I'm really quite confused. Was there not 7 days back then? But 6 days of the week. And for 7 times 8 years. That's a lot of years. And he wished that the room was locked with this massive key, but that somebody threw away the key, and that the person that they had sent looking for the key was blind, so that they could never find it. So anyway, this is about Marion Ross. And he just fell in love with her. She didn't love him back, and it actually sounds like he passed away on the way to her because she changed her mind. And that's what they say, is he travelled through all sorts of terrible weather to get to her, and then he just didn't make it at the end. So there we go, on that happy note. I shall sing. So it's called Is Struig nach Drukig Dalmi. It's a shame I wasn't born blind, because if he had been born blind and without language, he would never have seen her and he would never have spoken to her.
So there you go. And thank you, Monica, so much for coming to help me.
girls, thank you so much. That was fantastic. I'm glad I can't understand it, though, because I fear I may be in tears. We're going to give Liam a wee minute here. I have no idea what Liam's going to do. He's going to come and play his guitar for us. We've known each other for quite a while. Liam is from Invergordon, played for a long time in the Tain Pipe Band. Probably still do at occasion, do you, Liam? No, not anymore. And teaches at Fèis, Ross, am I right in saying? Yeah. And he is a Ross.
Yeah, I feel like that's an easy thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit down and just leave it.
Get me a round of applause if I say it again. I'm Uilleam Ros. I'm going to play a song about my great uncle Bill, who has just turned 103 years old. He moved, yeah, I know, it's some good stuff over there. He moved from the Black Isle over to Canada in the 1950s. And he went with nothing in his pocket. It took him five days to get there. Him and his family went over there because the bank wouldn't give him a loan to extend his croft. So he said, well, I'm just going to go to Canada instead. How about that? It's a different time. But he arrived in Montreal and he took a train across the country to Calgary in Alberta. And he didn't have any money. He worked as a rancher. He did rancher's hours, the type of work that you feel in your bones long after you've finished it. And when I was over there this year, he said, you know, I didn't have any money. I didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. I was poor financially, but rich in terms of togetherness and in terms of family. So this is about him. I think if it's okay with the room, I'd like to do maybe 2 more, if that's okay. Is that okay with you? Okay, thank you. That
wasn't it, but I want to tell this one story before I play it, because it helps with a bit of context, you know. During lockdown, I climbed up Ben Wyvis with one of my pals, and I thought I was quite well fit at the time, you know. I thought I could do this, but the years of haggis, pork pies, and all the rest of it really caught up with me, and I didn't expect it to happen at the top of the hill, you know. But when we got to the top, you're meant to see this amazing view, and of course we didn't, because it rained the whole way and it was a bit miserable. But you know, we had some whiskey at the top and beer as well, and on the way down it was a lot quicker, and it was I felt a lot better on the way down, you know. But yeah, of course I'm a Ross, I'm from Invergordon, but what I mainly write about in my music is the landscape and people's connection to it and stories like that. You know, people make memories with these things, you know. This hill, Ben Wyvis, and all the other ones has been there through all of the big life events that I've had, the big life doubts that I've had as well. It's been a constant, landscape is a constant, and I feel that it changes just as much as I do, although we don't maybe notice it. Anyway, this tune is called Walking Up the Ben. See if you can pinpoint the exact time when the whiskey and the beer kick in. Okay, I think you'll be able to tell. audience participation time, right? It's not going to be scary, don't worry. You just need to sing for 10 minutes by yourself. See if you can clap along to this beat, see if you can do it. Everybody watching online at 4 o'clock in the morning in America, they should be doing the same thing. I don't know if the amount of whiskies counts. I think it's what the whiskey was. Glenmorangie, of course. Yeah. I've kind of got to say that, right? I'll finish up with one more. This is another song about place and people's connection to it. It's not by me, it's by a band called Runrig, of course. And if you know the words, please do sing along. Okay? I'm looking at you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I just seen a picture of a cat at the bottom of Liam's guitar bag. It's throwing me. Thank you very much. The super talented Uilleam Ros, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're finished. I think we've done well with the time. What we've experienced tonight is more than just a performance. It's a living proof that heritage is not something of the past. It's something that is still here, alive. So before we close, may I I ask you to join me one more time for a round of applause for all of our speakers and musicians tonight. Thank you. To think we thought we could do this with an iPhone. Stephen, who doesn't want to thank, but thank you very much, Stephen McIntosh, for who out with. We wouldn't have been able to do this tonight. Like I can work an iPhone. Thank Julie Ross for sorting us out with some bottles of Bal Blair whiskey, Liam. My mother-in-law, my sister-in-law for baking, and anybody else who contributed, thank you very much. I probably wouldn't have said this last week when all I wanted to do this week was plan my next week's job, which is talking about witchcraft executions and trials, which I will find far more fun. Please come along, there's a few tickets left. But Carrie and Sarah really pushed for doing this event tonight. I've not had a holiday since March, and when they said it, I went, what? Really? The end of October? But actually, Sarah, Carrie, thank you very much. I'm glad I didn't give them my honest thoughts when they suggested it. And of course, special thanks to Mike Ross, Clan Ross America, who not only this is something I'm useless at, and I'm very good at talking about history and rubbish and connections. People will know that. What I'm not very good at is asking for money. So I'm not asking for money, but I'm going to talk about what Mike and Clan Ross America have agreed to do, which is fantastic. They have not only commissioned a film, which will obviously benefit us, because people will see it and they'll want to come and see it, and they can come and visit, and we'll get a wee donation in the donations box, and hopefully they'll have a good time. But Clan Ross America have committed to increase their annual donation to the museum, which was, I believe, $200 a year, to $1,000 a year, which we are going to... We have been planning. We need to do something to keep this heritage alive. Unfortunately, it does boil down to money, the very thing I don't like talking about. And this sort of support is just the sort of support we were looking for as I set out to go and find sponsorship for our cases in the museum, to find a new revenue stream, to keep us open, to make this an attractive job for whoever takes over after me. So we're going to acknowledge Clan Ross America's very, very generous and needed donation by creating a Clan Ross America case in the museum. And we hope that that will maybe encourage other people to do the same. So really, thank you, Mike, and thanks to everyone at Clan Ross America. Ross is not just a memory. It's a continuity, it's a connection. We've seen lots of wonderful talent tonight. It's also a belonging. It's where I'm from. And if I may add, on behalf of the Clan Ross Centre, on behalf of Tain Museum, thank you to you all for turning up. To those who've travelled to be with us, to those who are watching across the world, your presence renews this story. We're all part of that story now, after tonight. This land of Ross remembers you, and you will always be welcome here. Good night, and have a safe journey home. Thank you very much. Can I shut up now? Stop streaming? I think I see a red light.